Good. Main camera, recording.
Recording video.
Snap. We'll have more room or something.
Alright, let's get started. We're good to start.
Am I in the shot?
Yep.
Vampires. They're hard to kill. Oh, excellent. Hi everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Nights at the Round Table. Today we are discussing the book The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham. And I'm just going to jump straight into first impressions, or general impressions of the book, and I'm going to start with Caroline.
Oh, why?
Because I feel like being mean.
Yeah, really. So I first read this book about 20 years ago, so I had a vague idea that it was about people going blind and man-eating plants. So I reread it, and I don't think I had the same impression as I did when I obviously read it as a teenager. I found there were a few things that were done very fast, and other things that could have, I thought it was very surface. Yeah. So it could have gone so much more into the meat of things, and often it didn't. So that's my impression. It was lacking in what I enjoyed when I first read it.
Matt?
It was the first read of it for me, actually. It was on my to-read list of classic literature that I have, so yay to finally get into this one. List always grows. I found it rather interesting. There were some points that, as you mentioned, it seemed to be a little shy on, but I found overall that the cohesion was fairly decent of it, but it was an interesting read for sure.
Okay, I quite liked this book, but I had to stop myself a couple of moments because after reading Battlefield Earth, this book was genius. And of course, this book isn't genius. My general impression of the book is that it's exceptionally British. It is exceptionally British in sort of a genteel kind of fireside story way. And there was just... you are right, it was lacking in any kind of serious depth. I mean, the end of the world happened, the majority of the human population is blind and dying, and then there's
everybody's very stiff upper lip about it.
Well,
yeah,
the narrator is very stiff upper lip about it, but not even stiff upper lip about it. It's more like, I have absolutely no idea of the gravity of the situation, and this sounds like a great fireside yarn.
It's true, though. It's true. There's so many moments where he's just, and also there's this whole reflection about discarding what makes us human and what what we thought about as being rules of society and everything, and he's very about it.
Yeah. Well. This is life now.
Yeah, and it takes him half an hour to reach that point too.
Yeah, which actually contrasts sharply to some of the reactions the characters in the book have.
That's true.
Because they wake up blind, and then one lady decides that she and her husband and her kids are not going to live a very blind life, and she goes into the kids' bedroom and kills her children and herself. And then the guy goes to a pub to drink himself to death. There's a ton of that. There was an orderly in the hospital who goes, well, the phone isn't working and I'm blind, so I'm just going to step out the window.
Exactly, and he throws himself out the window, and you're like, okay. That was a bit of an extreme reaction.
Where were the pragmatists?
I know.
Nobody. Alright, we're blind. I'm feeling ableist as hell, so I'm going to shoot myself.
Exactly.
What the hell? Honestly, if that happened to me without the Triffids, because I would be dead the minute the Triffids arrived, but without the Triffids, I would wake up blind and I'd be like, okay, so this is my life now. Best get on with it.
Seriously, and you said it. I thought there was a really ableist. You have to remember that this wasn't written in
Oh yes, I know, but you can still discuss the problems with.
There are huge amounts of problems in this, but you have to make allowances for the time that it was written in, but still, immediately you are blind, you are worthless, disabled, not a human anymore. You're, like, I thought this was a very, very big leap, and everybody seemed to agree on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I know. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, so many blind. Now we have to train them. Do you really want that task? You know, like it's such.
Oh my lord, yeah, it was so bizarre. Like, I spent the first 3 chapters of that book going, why? Just,
Me
but
too.
why? Like,
And I remember, like, feeling a huge kind of understanding for this when I was very, very, very young. I was 14, I think, when I read this for the first time. And it made sense to me when I first read it. And now as an adult, I'm like, you know what? You make do with so many things.
yeah.
Everybody's reaction to being blind would be, well, my life is over, so I might as well die.
Yeah, no. I mean, I can get that for some people, but not for, like, the majority of London.
No.
Like,
No.
Yeah.
I mean, really? Really? Yeah, there were... just the way it went, the way the story progressed was very odd. Because I think if it happened to me, I woke up and I'm like, oh my god, I can't see. I'd call my flatmate, who would also be like, oh my god, I can't see, and be like, well, this is weird.
So
How about we find out what's going on then? Instead of just,
or
okay, I'm gonna throw myself off the window now.
or you wake up like that. Well, making coffee will be interesting.
Yeah,
Because routine is still going to be a thing, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
well, you know where the coffee is. You know,
Yeah.
just little mundane tasks like that. At least they
greatest
could
risk
try.
would be going down the stairs without tripping over a cat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the so few pragmatic people at the instant of the tragedy just sort of made me blink and go, I don't understand though. But no. That said, the prose was lovely.
It was. It really, really was.
It
John
really
Wyndham
was.
can really write.
Yes, he can, and it was all very sort of jolly in tone compared to like the subject matter.
Yeah, it was. It was exactly like you said, like a fireside sort of gather round, children.
Let me tell you about the day humanity went blind.
Well, typically John Wyndham, I'm not sure of the pronunciation there. I guess I haven't read any of his other novels, to be honest, but I guess he typically writes a bit of a happier ending to things, so this is a bit more not so happy in comparison.
Yeah, no, I haven't
comparison
read
to
any of
his
his other stuff.
To his other stuff, and even still, as I said, it's kind of a light read, considering it's the end of the world that we're discussing.
Yeah, quite literally the end of the world.
You know what? I've read a lot of his other books, and I'm thinking back now. Endings are not what stick with me. I can't remember how the chrysalids. Well, you know, I kind of have an idea, but it's not. It's really how, like, the whole middle part that makes his novel what they are. And I think that's why, you know, the ending is kind of like, you know,
I liked the ending. The
Yeah, I
ending
did
was
too.
basically what it should have been at the start, which was, well, this is my life now.
we get on with it.
Yeah, we get on with
But
it.
it's kind of a non-ending.
Yeah,
You know?
it's
And-
very
and-
open-ended.
And it makes sense because, you know, it's this event and things just go on.
Yeah. Yeah, there was there were a couple of moments that were really fantastic for a chuckle. Like the hilariously insensitive nurse at the beginning of the story, where he's laid up in bed with his eyes wrapped,
Oh
and
my
she's going
God.
on and on about the beautiful light show outside.
It's
And she
really a
wouldn't
pity you
shut up
can't see
about
this.
it.
And there you are laid up. You should really come and see this.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't.
well,
Such
Sorry.
a shame that you can't see this. Oh, that one was really pretty, and I'm just like,
And it's not just like a few lines of dialogue. It goes on and on.
Like 4 pages. Yeah.
dear me.
Actually, just saying about the non-ending, and it's one of the things I found with the book is that it was a little bit anticlimactic because of that.
Yeah.
However, with the non-ending, Simon Clarke apparently wrote the sequel, The Night to the Triffids, back in 2001. So I guess he kind of felt the same way and thought there should be a little bit extra.
Okay. Well, there you go. I have to say, I appreciate the way this book ended. I liked, because there are so many sci-fi books that end with, like, one big, brilliant blaze. Sometimes it's nice to just read a book that doesn't do that necessarily. And I liked how it was a hopeful ending. Spoiler alert, we're on the Isle of Wight. We've got rid of the Triffids on that island. From here, we can start rebuilding Britain.
Right.
I liked that. I liked that a lot.
And in that sort of story, what makes it realistic is that it wouldn't progress according to like the natural
the natural 3-act
the 3-act structure and like big rise, and it's kind of like disjointed, and there's a bunch of different things, and it's episodical almost the way that it
so it's very not American in the way that it ends, is the way I guess I'll say. But I guessed from the first page that the author was British, and this was a British story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I knew nothing about the author or the book beyond some very early memories of like a movie that was made from the book, like old black and white movie.
Oh.
The only thing I remember about that movie was like a creeping vine across the ground. That's it. That's all I remembered. I knew that was Day of the Triffids. That was it. That's all I remembered from it. I didn't know it was set in the UK or anything. I didn't know that the author was British.
I think I saw it a while back.
You can tell from the prose immediately
Yes.
that this is a British book.
Very much so.
So, like, it did, back in the time, have some critical acclaim. It was nominated, at any rate, for the International Fantasy Award in 1952. It was set to film in 1962, had a radio drama in 1957, 1968, and 2008,
Ooh.
and had a TV series in 1981 and 2009 as well.
2009?
2009?
Really?
Okay, yeah.
I knew about the one in the 80s. Oh, I have to go look that up now.
Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to check it out, but that's random stuff I did find out. So
It's good?
It's good. It's a little more American.
Oh,
In
okay.
that it's depressing.
Oh, so I'll love it then.
and lots of waving flags.
I liked also in the book that mankind's biggest issue was the stuff that mankind made up for itself. The Triffids, genetically modified organisms. This is not an endorsement of not genetically modified organisms, by the way, for me personally. But I liked that the Triffids were like these GMOs from the USSR, of course.
Obviously.
Obviously, Russia's had a hand in it. And actually, that made me giggle hysterically because recently, Putin has declared that Russia would be the world's largest supplier of organic produce. That's his plan.
Right.
And so I read... that was in his plans. So I read this in the book and I'm like... yeah, we all know what's going to happen now.
John, I lost the name for a moment. Apparently, he was influenced by War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, and
I can totally see that.
Yeah, that makes
really
total
see
sense.
it in how it's written.
Yeah.
How it's structured too.
Yeah. I do have to say, I have a lot of issues with the way this book deals with women. And also not, because the book never passes judgment on any of what's happening. It doesn't say this is the right way to do it. It just expresses a lot of ideas that I find extremely problematic.
Yeah.
Gender
Oh my
roles back
god.
in the 50s,
Yeah, gender role issues, like...
Like Coker's whole diatribe about like how women they're just lazy because they are intelligent and they could do it but they won't.
See, I appreciated that because the rest of the dialogue was all about how useless women were and they're basically good for being broodmares and that's it. I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, but the step better from being broodmares is that we're lazy and manipulative.
But at least we're intelligent.
One's less bad, is that what you're saying?
Yes! I'd rather be seen as lazy and manipulative because I am anyway in certain circles. I am seen as that anyway in modern times. I can handle that than being expected to be a broodmare whether I wanted children or not.
Yeah, really.
Go jump in a lake. Like, no.
And how like the whole conversation with Josella about when they're at the Beadley, I think his name is.
yeah, Beadley.
This camp and everything, and they're like, oh well, we're gonna have to have babies and blah blah, and she's like, if you want to marry me, you have to take 2 other girls too. Like, the one who has morality is the man, and the first one to like
define
into
morality.
Well, morality according to those whole Christian values.
Oh, yeah.
Further camp is like well, we have Christian values and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the writer was trying to make her come off as pragmatic, but honestly, it's not. It didn't come off like that very well. I had a lot of issues too when he first meets Gisela.
Oh my god.
And she talks about the guy who was literally just beating her moments ago.
Oh,
And
he's
like,
a nice guy.
oh yeah, he's probably a good guy. I mean, he only probably started beating me because he was drunk and scared and...
Yeah.
No! And before that, there was a moment of reflection when that gang came through, led by the sighted person, and the sighted person grabbed the girl and hurled her to one of the blind men.
Yeah.
And she screamed. And the quote is literally this. It did not occur to me that if there was to be any survivors, anyone adopted by this gang would stand a far better chance than she would out on her own. Adopted? Like, he's literally talking about, like, rape as adoption. Like,
he goes about this whole thing about how she wouldn't even mind.
yeah, and then, the next part is, and he had serious doubts as to whether any of the women hereabouts would seriously mind anyway. Yes! Yes, they would! Like, jeez!
Well, they're blind, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, they're
not
blind
human
and
anymore.
therefore useless, and, you know, they are lucky to be gang raped if it only keeps them alive for a few more months. Jesus. God, it really bugged me.
Yeah, that was the worst part for me.
Oh, yeah.
This is starting to sound a little bit like another book we reviewed last year.
Which one?
It was not as bad as the real story.
Yeah.
I didn't read it.
Oh, don't.
Don't read it.
Don't. Well, actually, I say that. It's one of my brother's favourite books.
Really?
Like, he loves the Into the Gap series, and I'm sure that the rest of the series is fine, but that first book is 200 pages of rape and Stockholm Syndrome, and I just, nope.
God.
Nope.
If you want a comparison of the bottom of the barrel of a genre, okay, read it. Anything else is better.
No. No, I referred to the last book that this channel did, Battlefield Earth. Nope.
Haven't read it, so yeah.
Yeah, there was another issue with Beadley and his crew, who basically reduced women to broodmares.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. They were like, the men must work, and the women must make babies, was essentially their philosophy for the survival of the human race. And I'm sitting here going, that is the worst plan on the face of the planet. You need to get enough food so that pregnant women don't die carrying a child, don't die in childbirth, that those children don't die of malnutrition while they're being raised. You're going to need all hands on deck. That means women pick up and haul ass too. We're not just there to make babies. And that is true of almost every primitive society.
Yeah.
Putting on my anthropologist hat. In Norfolk, was it Norfolk or Kent? They discovered farms, Iron Age farms. Women worked the farms. You could tell women worked the farms because of the stress on their joints. They were also bigger and stronger than average women. So they were working the farms. Why? Because it's rough up there and you need all hands on deck to get shit done.
Absolutely.
So this whole idea that they revert to antiquated gender divisions in order for the human race to survive is utter bullshit. It's the worst plan on the face of the planet.
Oh, but you know, they kind of solved that by getting a busload of young blind girls who were blind from birth so they can do some work while they're brooding.
Oh my god, yeah, and a quote from the sociologist who made a speech at this particular general meeting when they proposed this gender division for their new society said that nobody had the right to deprive women the happiness of her natural function.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
Oh, Twitch. Like, we're more than a womb, guys. Seriously.
Yep.
My brain functions just as well as any bloke's, and I'm happiest when I'm using it, so yeah, the place of women in this book and how they're immediately reverted is something that I think is interesting because it belies a problem that is faced by women in the real world today, and that is recognition of their personhood. Like, their personhood, tragedy strikes, and the first thing that happens is women are removed of their personhood. Okay, that they're livestock now, basically. And it's...
Incubators.
Incubators, yeah, walking incubators. And it's not that far-fetched for it to happen in this book, because there are people fighting to make it so today. Like, legislation is being passed making it impossible for women to make their own health choices. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, while I had a lot of issues with the way women were treated in this book, it's not that far-fetched at all. So its inclusion in the book is actually quite understandable.
I think that's why it made us so angry, because we can see it happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If it hadn't been plausible, it would have just been ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's it. That's why I think it grated on my nerves. It's because it's so plausible. Like, if the world ends tomorrow and I happen to survive the catastrophe, the first thing I'm doing is sharpening all my swords and heading into the scrub. You lot can fend for yourselves. Like, honestly,
Just
I will
watch
not
out
be
for
reduced
plants.
to my uterus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is actually why I really enjoyed Coca, because his whole rant about how women are actually capable and you're just choosing not to do this because of some outdated notion about what women can and cannot do, and you're ridiculous, and if this is going to get anywhere, you need to haul ass. I loved him for that. Like, even though he was like, women are lazy, I'm just like, I love you, Coca, you're right. Not that women are lazy, but that women are capable.
Yeah, and what I think grated on me a little bit about all this is he's seen as the bad guy, the extremist.
Yeah,
the you know, the
I'm trying to
terrorist.
look after these blind people. Will you let us in and share your food at the university, guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Alright, so, final thoughts before we go into star ratings, Matt?
Just want to also mention that the book is dynamic enough that it actually had a fair bit of influence in the last 63 years. Rocky Horror Picture Show influenced...
Yeah.
Exactly. One of the lines, I really got hot when I saw Jeanette Scott fight a Triffid that spits poison and kills, is one of the opening numbers there, influenced that. The opening hospital sequence also inspired the screenplay for 28 Days Later.
Oh, that's true. That's very true.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's just the real life dynamics of it, as you mentioned, I think is part of what has made it have some influence across the board in this field. So I think I think that the part that irritates us is because we can't actually see it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one of the things.
Final thoughts, Karen?
I think I'm going to reread a lot more of his books. Seriously though, now that I'm old enough to appreciate such things and also speak English well enough to appreciate such things, because I was not that versed of an English speaker back then. Oh my god, the prose was so lovely.
Oh gosh.
So good.
Yes.
There were some moments that I just sat back and went like, wow, that was a nice phrase.
Especially after the dribble of the... I'm still not over it, like, honestly. Oh my god! That was torture. Okay. Final thoughts. This was a really good read, surprisingly light, given the subject matter. I would have liked some more in-depth into like, the horror and terror of it all, but I did appreciate sort of the pragmatic, well, this is what happened, and so this is what we did about it kind of aspect of the book. It was extremely British. So British.
Yes.
So British. So if you to give it out of 5 stars, what would you give it, Caroline?
I don't know. 3.5, I guess.
3.5.
3.5.
For myself, I think had to weigh this a bit, but I think overall I'd have to give it 4. Just
4?
Plain and simple because of the way it's written. It's very well written.
Yeah. I'm bouncing between 3.5 and 4. I'm not quite sure what to give it yet.
3.75.
3.75. We'll go right down the middle and really annoy Tom. 3.75. Yeah, that's fair. Because the prose is beautiful. Really wonderfully written. Some very clever turns of phrases, and there are some moments that are wonderfully funny, and some moments that are really very sad. But it's not as deep as I normally like to read, so I couldn't give it 5 stars. Okay, who would like to pick the next book?
I'm never here, so I'll do
No.
that. The Sapphire Rose by David Eddings.
Oh, that's the final book in the Millennium series. We've done the first 2 already. I'll put links up. So yeah, That's what we'll be reading in 2 weeks' time. If you have any thoughts about The Day of the Triffids, do leave a comment down below. You can also discuss it in our Goodreads book club. I'll have a link down below for that as well. We're on Twitter and on Facebook too. Yep. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!
See you.
I said that very fast. Don't forget to like and subscribe! Bye now! Get out! I just turned myself.